Why do we wear masks when the night grows long? Why do we light fires when the air turns cold? These questions linger, like whispers in the dark. On this night, fear and wonder walk together. They once believed that the veil between the living and the dead grew thin. On this night, spirits could cross. Loved ones might return, but so could shadows. The harvest was ending. The fields grew silent. Great fires were lit to protect the people, to guide them through the longest nights. Tonight, we walk together, from Samhain to Halloween. If you enjoy these forgotten tales, take a moment to like this story, for the fire is only beginning. Shall we step into the roots of Samhain? The Celts lived close to the land. Their year was divided into light and dark, the bright half filled with warmth, crops, and life, and the dark half filled with cold, quiet, and mystery. When October ended, the bright half faded away. Samhain began. It was the end of the harvest, the closing of one year, and the doorway to another. They did not see this as death, but as a turning of the great circle. In their villages, people felt both fear and hope. The fields were empty, but their barns were full. The animals were brought close for the winter. Fires burned to honor the gods and protect the living. Samhain was not only about survival, it was about respect for the cycles of nature. They believed that if they honored this moment, the gods and spirits would bless them with safety in the cold months ahead. Samhain was a time of fire. Villagers lit great bonfires on the hills. The flames reached high into the sky, symbols of light against the dark. People carried burning torches from the sacred fires to their homes, believing the fire would guard them from spirits. The glow could be seen across valleys, calling families to gather together. The fire was more than warmth. It was a shield, a prayer, and a bridge between the worlds. To the Celts, fire was alive. It spoke with crackles. It danced with sparks. It carried messages to the unseen. When they watched the flames, they felt close to their gods. They trusted the fire to keep the shadows away, even when the nights grew long and cold. At Samhain, the people did not only honor the turning of the year, they honored their ancestors. They believed the spirits of family and kin returned on this night. Doors were left open, tables prepared with food, fires burned bright to welcome them home. It was not a night of fear alone, but of remembrance and love. Villagers told stories of those who had passed. Children listened wide-eyed, learning that death was not the end, but a return through the veil. To honor the dead was to keep the circle unbroken. In this way, Samhain carried both sadness and joy. The living shared space with the unseen, and in the silence of night, they felt close to the roots of their people. Samhain was not only in the homes and fields, it was also held in sacred places. Stone circles stood as gateways to the unseen. The druids, wise keepers of knowledge, led rituals by firelight among the stones. They spoke prayers to the gods, asking for protection through the long winter. The stones glowed with shadows, and the people believed the earth itself was listening. For the Celts, nature was alive. stones, trees, rivers, and sky all carried spirit. At Samhain, these spirits were closest to the people. The druids offered gifts, herbs, and sometimes animals. Every ritual had meaning, every sound carried into the night. Around these stones, the people felt safe, guided, and connected. The world of men and the world of spirits stood side by side. Samhain was the end of light, but also the start of darkness. It was a doorway, a threshold. Villagers stood at the edge of the year, unsure of what waited beyond. The nights grew colder, the winds sharper. They believed that by honoring this moment, they could walk safely into the dark half of the year. And so, Samhain was not only about what they saw, but about what they felt. The mystery of the unseen, the fear of shadows, the hope for blessings. This was the heart of the roots of Samhain. But beyond this, another truth waited. If the veil truly grew thin, what spirits might cross? Let us step into the world of shadows and discover the veil between worlds. The Celts believed that Samhain was not only the end of summer, it was a night when the veil between the worlds grew thin. The air itself felt different, heavy with mystery, a time when the boundary between the living and the dead almost disappeared. People felt watched, as if unseen eyes followed them from the shadows. To walk in the fields at night was to step into both worlds at once. They spoke of gentle spirits, ancestors who returned home to bless their families, but also of restless souls, wandering without peace. The thin veil did not choose who could pass. It opened the way for all. To protect themselves, people carried fire from the sacred bonfires and whispered prayers into the night. Samhain was not just a festival of harvest. It was a night of doors opening when anything could cross through. To the Celts, spirits were not only dark, some returned as protectors, loved ones who gave comfort in dreams and left blessings by the hearth. But others came as shadows, tricksters or wanderers who sought warmth in the homes of the living. Families left food at their doors, bowls of grain, milk, or meat, hoping to satisfy the spirits so they would move on. Children were warned not to wander too far, for strange figures could be seen at the edges of the village. Shapes that looked almost human, but not quite. The people learned to live with this fear and turned it into ritual. By offering gifts, by showing respect, they believed balance would hold. In this way, Samhain was a night of deep respect for both the loved and the lost. On Samhain night, villagers often spoke of watchers, silent figures at the edges of the firelight. Sometimes they were ancestors, other times nameless shadows. The line was too thin to know. Eyes glowed faint in the darkness. Shapes moved where no one should stand. It was said that even animals stirred, sensing presences beyond human sight. The watchers were both feared and respected. No one dared to challenge them. Instead, people chose to acknowledge their place in the cycle. Death and life walked together this night. Samhain reminded the living that they were never alone. The veil would close again, but for one night the two worlds touched, and the people learned to honor the mystery. On Samhain night, dreams carried special meaning. People believed that visions in sleep were messages from the other side, a whisper from ancestors, or a warning from restless spirits. Young men and women placed herbs under their pillows, hoping to see their future. Farmers listened for omens in the cries of birds or the howl of distant wolves. Every sound, every shadow seemed to carry a secret. The line between dream and waking blurred. The veil made even silence heavy, as if unseen voices waited to be heard. For the Celts, this was not only fear, but guidance. The world of the dead spoke to the living, offering signs for the days ahead. Samhain was a night when choices were shaped by visions, and fate felt close enough to touch. As the fires burned low, the people knew the veil would soon close. Spirits would return to their world, but for one night they had walked together with the living. This crossing reminded them of the fragile line between life and death, of how quickly one could step into shadow. Samhain was not only a festival of fear, it was a festival of connection. To honor the dead, to guard the living, to face the unseen. The veil taught them humility and respect for what lay beyond sight. But there was more than spirits. The people also lit fires, wore masks, and made offerings. Why? Let us walk into the world of fire, masks, and rituals. Samhain was known as a festival of fire. Great bonfires burned on the hills, and people believed they were shields against wandering spirits. Families took embers from the sacred flames to relight their home fires. This was not only about warmth, it was about carrying protection into the heart of every home. As flames rose, shadows danced across the fields. The fire reminded them that even in the darkest season, light would survive. Sparks drifted into the night, carrying prayers with them. The Celts trusted that as long as the fires burned, no evil spirit could harm them. To light the fire was to keep the balance in a world where darkness was growing strong. But fire alone was not enough. The Celts also wore masks, strange, twisted faces carved from wood or made of hides. They believed these disguises could fool the spirits. A wandering ghost would not see a human, but another shadow, another spirit. In this way, the people walked safely through the night. Masks gave power to the wearer. Behind them, fear turned into courage. Children laughed at their own reflections, forgetting for a moment the danger of the night. Yet, even laughter had meaning. It mocked the darkness, showing that the living could still resist. Every mask was more than a costume. It was a charm, a shield, a sign that humans could play tricks on the unseen. Masks protected the living, but offerings calmed the dead. Families placed food outside their doors. Loaves of bread, bowls of milk, pieces of meat. They believed hungry spirits would take the gifts and move on. Some offerings were left at crossroads, where the veil was said to be thinnest. Others were given at sacred trees or stones, where the spirits were strongest. These gifts were acts of respect. They were reminders that the living and the dead still shared the same world. By feeding the spirits, people hoped to avoid mischief and gain blessings. It was not only about fear, it was about balance. A simple meal left in the night could keep harmony between two worlds and give the living peace through the cold season ahead. Around the bonfires, people formed great circles. They danced, sang, and told stories. The circle itself was a sacred shape, a symbol of protection and unity. As sparks flew into the sky, villagers felt safe together, for in the circle no spirit could enter, and no shadow could break their bond. The circle also reminded them of the turning year, always moving, never ending, just like the seasons, just like life and death. When they held hands and moved together, they felt part of something greater. Fire, mask, and offering became one ritual, a shield of light in the face of the dark. On Samhain night, the living also played tricks. Small jokes, harmless pranks, and playful mischief. They believed laughter confused the spirits, keeping them from causing harm. Even fear could be turned into fun. This is why some say Halloween is not only about terror, but also joy. It is the dance between shadow and light. If you are enjoying this journey, take a moment to like this story. Your support keeps the fire alive and helps me share more forgotten tales with you. But this is only the beginning, for the rituals of Samhain would soon meet the power of a new faith. How did Christianity change this ancient night? Let us walk together into the coming of saints and shadows. When Christianity spread into Celtic lands, it did not arrive quietly. Priests and monks saw the old festivals as dangerous, yet also powerful. They understood that the people would not abandon their customs overnight. So, they gave Samhain new names, new meanings. November 1st became the Feast of All Saints, a holy day to honor the martyrs and the faithful. But the timing was no accident. It was placed where Samhain stood. In this way, the old and the new overlapped. Saints replaced spirits, prayers replaced offerings, and holy water replaced fire. Yet in the hearts of the people, the shadows still lingered. They could not forget the ancient ways. And so Halloween was born, as a night where two worlds met, the world of saints and the world of spirits. The Church taught that the night before All Saints was holy, All Hallows Eve. Yet the people still carried masks, still lit fires, still whispered to the spirits in the dark. The Church tried to guide these customs into safer paths, to make the night less about fear and more about prayer. But old beliefs are strong, and they flowed beneath the new names like hidden rivers under stone. In villages, bells rang to honor the saints, but outside, children still carved faces into turnips, still left food for the wandering dead. The priests preached salvation, while the people lived between two worlds. Christianity gave structure and hope, but Samhain gave memory and mystery. Together they shaped a night unlike any other, a night both holy and haunted. The Church did not erase Samhain. It absorbed it and reshaped it. For the people, this was not betrayal, but survival. They could honor saints while still remembering ancestors. They could pray in the church and still leave offerings at home. Halloween became a space where old and new lived side by side. Over time, this blending gave the holiday its strange beauty, sacred and mysterious, fearful and joyful. Priests spoke of heaven, while villagers whispered of the veil. Both worlds lived in the same night. Halloween carried echoes of the druids and the saints, and in its heart, the fire of Samhain still burned. Not everyone welcomed the change. some villagers clung to the old ways. They whispered that the saints could not protect them as fire once did. Priests urged them to abandon masks and offerings. But fear of the unseen was not so easily erased. In the dark of night, many still lit hidden fires, or left bread at their doors, just as their ancestors had done. This conflict shaped the heart of Halloween. It became a night of tension, a struggle between prayers and superstitions. Yet this struggle gave the festival its unique soul. For in the battle between faith and fear, Halloween became something in between, both sacred and shadowed. Over time, the church's influence grew stronger. Samhain slowly became All Hallows, but it never disappeared. It lived on in the laughter of children, in the carving of lanterns, in the whispers of stories told by firelight. The old and the new were forever joined. Halloween became a night of transformation, where saints and spirits walked side by side. The people accepted this balance, for though the church gave new meaning, the mystery of Samhain still burned beneath. And so, the roots of the old world remained alive in the new. But what happened when these traditions crossed the sea and found a home in America? Let us follow the journey. Centuries passed, and with them, people began to move. Across the sea, from Ireland and Scotland, families carried their memories of Samhain. They left behind their villages, but they brought with them their rituals. For no ocean could wash away such deep traditions. When they arrived in the New World, they found new lands, new forests, and new neighbors. But the spirits of Samhain still traveled with them. They lit fires, told stories, and remembered the old ways. In the unfamiliar land, the rituals gave them comfort. They reminded them of home, of ancestors, of the turning of seasons. Halloween was not just a holiday. It was a piece of their identity. And in America, it began to grow roots of its own. The immigrants discovered that the New World was rich in forests and wild lands. These new landscapes carried their own mysteries. In the deep woods, they felt the same presence that their ancestors had known in Celtic hills. The veil might have thinned in Ireland, but here too the shadows stirred. The rituals gave them a way to understand what they felt. Fires still burned on October nights. Masks were still worn. Offerings were left. But now, these acts blended with the traditions of others. The New World was a place of mixing. Cultures touched, ideas crossed, and Halloween began to transform. It carried both the memories of Europe and the breath of America. A night that belonged to both the old world and the new. In towns and villages, Irish and Scottish customs met the practices of other settlers. Some from England brought tales of wandering spirits. Others carried folk games and autumn festivals. Together, these traditions wove into something new. Halloween was no longer just Samhain reborn. It became a patchwork of stories, games, and beliefs. Children began to dress in simple costumes. Neighbors played tricks and shared food. Candles glowed in carved turnips, just as they had in the old country. But now, these lights shone in new streets. Halloween in America grew into a community event. It was both strange and familiar, a living memory of Europe, reshaped by the spirit of the New World. In America, the people found new crops. Among them was the pumpkin, larger and softer than the turnips of their homeland. Soon, faces were carved into pumpkins instead of roots. The glowing lanterns became brighter, bolder, and more terrifying. Children carried them into the streets, while families placed them by doors to scare away spirits. The pumpkin became the symbol of a new Halloween. It carried the same meaning as the turnip, but now it shone with the strength of the new world. Every flickering candle inside was a prayer, a warning, and a piece of history reborn. The old fire of Samhain burned now inside orange walls, a tradition transformed by the land itself. As the years passed, Halloween in America grew. It was no longer only the memory of Samhain. It was a living festival, shaped by many hands. Fires, masks, offerings, and lanterns blended into something both ancient and new. It became a night for families, for children, and for entire communities. A night of fear, joy, and wonder. The old beliefs had found new soil, and there they bloomed again. Yet Halloween was not done changing, for in the New World it would meet other forces, new customs, new fears, and new dreams. What new shapes would it take? Let us step further into the world of pumpkins, parades, and the birth of trick-or-treat. By the late 19th century, pumpkins had taken root as the true lantern of Halloween. They were easier to carve than turnips, and their glowing faces lit up porches across America. Families gathered to carve frightening or funny shapes, believing the light would guard against spirits. The pumpkin lantern, or jack-o'-lantern, became a symbol of protection and play. Children carried them through the streets. The glow of dozens of carved faces turned small towns into places of wonder. Each lantern flickered with history, part ancient fire, part new tradition. In every carved smile, there was both memory and transformation. The pumpkin had become more than food. It was the heart of Halloween's image in America. As the 20th century arrived, a new custom was born: trick-or-treating. Children in costumes went from door to door, asking for sweets. The phrase was a promise: give us a treat, or we will play a trick. It echoed the old Celtic idea of spirits demanding offerings, but now it was wrapped in laughter and fun. Families welcomed the children with candies, cookies, and small gifts. It was both a game and a ritual of community. Neighbors joined together, turning fear into joy. Halloween was no longer only a night of mystery. It was a night of celebration. The veil of spirits was remembered in every knock, every sweet given, and every laugh carried through the street. At first, costumes were simple: sheets for ghosts, painted masks, old clothes turned into disguises. They were echoes of the Celtic masks once used to fool spirits. But in America, they became games of imagination. Children dressed as witches, animals, heroes, and monsters. The street became a stage where every child could play a part in the ancient story. Costumes gave freedom. The shy could roar as lions. The small could become giants. The frightened could laugh as ghosts. It was a celebration of transformation, an ancient practice reborn with joy. Halloween became a night where identity shifted, where even the youngest joined the dance between shadow and light. By the early 20th century, Halloween was no longer only in homes. Towns began to celebrate together. Parades filled the streets with costumes, music, and glowing lanterns. Marching bands played, children waved, and families gathered to watch. What had once been a fearful night became a joyful spectacle. The parade was more than fun. It was a sign that Halloween had become a shared tradition, one that united communities, rich and poor, young and old. The fire of Samhain had turned into glowing lanterns carried proudly through the streets. The night was still filled with mystery, but now it carried laughter, color, and music as well. Halloween had become more than ritual. It was a tradition of joy. Families carved pumpkins, children trick-or-treated, and entire towns joined in parades. Yet, in every glowing lantern and every costume, the old fire of Samhain still flickered. The past and present were bound together in one night. If you are enjoying this story, I invite you to subscribe, so you can continue walking through history with me. For though we have seen pumpkins, parades, and tricks, there are still deeper shadows to explore. How did witches, ghosts, and fears shape the Halloween we know today? Let us step into the world of superstition and mystery. As Halloween grew, so too did the image of witches. In the old Celtic world, wise women and healers were respected. They carried knowledge of herbs, stars, and seasons. But in medieval Europe, fear turned them into figures of danger. When the Night of Spirits returned each year, witches became part of the story, flying through the skies, stirring cauldrons, and casting spells. In America, this image followed Halloween. Children dressed as witches with tall hats and brooms. Stories of dark magic spread through newspapers, books, and later films. The witch became both frightening and playful, a reminder of ancient fears, and a mask that turned fear into laughter. She was the shadow of Samhain itself, wise, feared, and forever tied to the mystery of the night. Ghosts have always walked with Halloween. From Celtic ancestors to Victorian tales, they were at the heart of the night. On Halloween, stories of spirits filled homes. Some were sad and gentle, others frightening and cruel. Children played ghost with white sheets, while adults whispered the tales of haunted houses and wandering souls. Ghosts carried both love and fear. They reminded people that death was close, but also that the past still touched the living. On Halloween, every creak of wood, every flicker of candlelight, seemed to hide a ghostly presence. The veil of Samhain still lingered in the American night, giving form to stories that grew darker with every generation. Halloween was not only joy, it was also fear. The night carried with it a thrill. People told stories of creatures waiting in the dark, black cats, bats, and figures lurking at the edge of firelight. These fears were not new. They were echoes of Samhain, when villagers once looked into the night and wondered what eyes were staring back. Fear gave Halloween its power. It made the laughter brighter, the lanterns warmer, the costumes more daring. To face fear was to embrace the mystery of the night. Halloween taught that shadows are not only to be avoided, but also to be respected, even celebrated. For without fear, the festival would lose its soul. On Halloween night, fear was shared in stories. Families gathered by the fire, telling tales of witches, ghosts, and strange encounters. Children listened with wide eyes, half scared, half delighted. The fire crackled as shadows moved across the walls, making the stories feel alive. In every whispered word, the old Samhain spirit returned. These tales were more than entertainment. They were lessons, reminders to respect the dark, to honor the unseen, to be careful of the choices made at night. Halloween was a teacher as much as a celebration. Through stories, the people kept the ancient fears alive and turned them into traditions passed from one generation to the next. Halloween carried both fear and wonder. People dressed as witches and ghosts, told stories of spirits, and filled the night with shadows. Yet they also filled it with laughter and light. The two sides could not be separated. Fear made the joy brighter, and the joy made the fear bearable. What about you? Do you enjoy the scary stories of Halloween or the playful side with costumes and fun? Leave a comment and share your thoughts, for our journey does not end here. Beyond witches and ghosts waits the modern celebration, a world of candies, costumes, and community. Shall we walk into it together? By the mid-20th century, Halloween had become a holiday of neighborhoods. Streets glowed with lanterns, porches were lined with pumpkins, and children in costumes ran from door to door. The fear of ancient Samhain still whispered in the background, but the night had changed into something brighter. It was no longer only about spirits. It was about community. Families decorated their homes with cobwebs, paper ghosts, and candlelight. Neighbors greeted each other with candy and laughter. In every street, the same ritual played out. Knocks at the door, smiling faces, the call of trick or treat. Halloween had become not just a memory of the past, but a living tradition that brought people together under the glow of lanterns. One of the strongest symbols of the modern Halloween is candy. Bags filled with sweets, chocolates, and bright wrappers. It may seem playful, but it carries the echo of ancient offerings. Once food was left for wandering spirits. Now candy was given to children in costumes. The gift kept peace, the laughter, and the balance of the night. Candy turned Halloween into a festival of joy. It became a reward for courage, a treasure carried home, a memory of generosity. Parents watched their children with smiles, remembering their own childhood nights. The sweetness of Halloween softened the shadows, reminding everyone that even in mystery, there can be delight. Costumes grew brighter, bigger, and more creative. Witches and ghosts were joined by superheroes, monsters, princesses, and characters from every story. Halloween became a celebration of imagination. The night allowed anyone, young or old, to transform into something else. This freedom carried the spirit of Samhain, the power to disguise, to cross into another role. But now it was joyful, it was playful. Costumes became the heart of parades, parties, and contests. A living theater of color and wonder. Halloween in the modern world was not only about remembering fear, it was about celebrating creativity, togetherness, and play. By the late 20th century, Halloween was more than a night for children. Adults joined too. Costumes filled houses, schools, and community halls. Parties brought laughter, games, and contests for the best disguise. Haunted houses were built to scare and thrill, turning fear into fun. The old fires of Samhain were now replaced by flashing lights, music, and decorations. Yet the heart of the night remained. Even in the joy of parties, people still felt the echo of the veil. Shadows mixed with laughter, and pumpkins still guarded the doors. Halloween became a celebration for all ages, a time when the world could play together, side by side with the memory of spirits. Halloween in the modern world is more than a single tradition. It is a story shared across families, towns, and even nations. From candy to costumes, from pumpkins to parades, it has become a festival of connection. A night when mystery and joy walk together. If you are enjoying this journey, I invite you to share this story with others who love history and mystery. Together, we can keep the old fire burning. But our path is not finished. Beyond the laughter and light of today's Halloween lies something deeper. How did ancient fears and myths survive in our modern celebrations? Let us step forward into the hidden roots that still shape the night. Even in the modern age, echoes of Samhain still remain. The bonfires of long ago now flicker in pumpkin lanterns. The masks once carved from wood now appear as costumes of cloth and paint. The offerings once left for spirits now rest in bags of candy. Though the names and shapes have changed, the roots are still alive. Every Halloween night is a reminder that people still gather against the darkness, still share light, laughter, and fear. The festival is no longer only Celtic, nor only American. It has become universal. But at its heart, it carries the same truth, that the world of the living and the world of the unseen are closer than we believe. The Celts spoke of the veil, a thin curtain between the living and the dead. On Halloween, this idea still lingers, not as fear, but as fascination. People light candles, tell stories of spirits, and imagine that for one night, the unseen world touches ours. The veil has become less of a terror and more of a mystery. Even today, children feel it when they whisper ghost stories. Adults feel it when they walk under lanterns glowing in the mist. The veil may never truly be gone. It has simply changed its form. On Halloween, the veil is not just a myth. It is a feeling that drifts in the air, reminding us that we walk with both memory and mystery. Though centuries have passed, the fire of Samhain is still alive. It burns in every candle, every lantern, every costume. The fire is not only flame, it is memory. It is the light people carry into the dark of autumn, into the cold of winter. The Celts once lit it to guard against spirits. Now people light it to celebrate, to gather, to play. This is why Halloween endures, because it is more than a holiday. It is a bridge between what was and what is, between ancestors and children, between the unseen and the living. As long as fires are lit on autumn nights, the spirit of Samhain will live on. Every symbol of Halloween carries an ancient echo. The witch's hat recalls the wise women once feared and respected. The ghost recalls ancestors crossing the veil. The pumpkin lantern recalls the bonfires of Samhain. Even the candy echoes the offerings left at doors long ago. The festival is a living museum where every custom is both memory and play. These symbols endure because they speak to something timeless: the need to face the dark, the joy of gathering, the comfort of light. Halloween is more than its parts. It is a story told in fire, mask, and shadow. A story that has lasted for centuries and still speaks in every lantern, every laugh, every shiver. Halloween survives because it asks us to wonder. What lies beyond the veil? What do the shadows hold? Are ghosts memories or something more? These questions are as old as Samhain, and they remain alive each October night. The answers are less important than the mystery, for the mystery is what keeps the fire burning. What do you think? Do spirits walk among us on Halloween, or are they only stories we tell to keep the night alive? Share your thoughts in the comments, for our journey is not over. Beyond symbols and echoes lies the closing of our story. Let us walk together into the final chapter. We have walked far, from the fires of Samhain to the lanterns of today, through the voices of druids, saints, and storytellers. Halloween has carried us across centuries. It is not only a holiday, it is a mirror of human memory. It shows how fear and joy live side by side, how old and new weave together. Each October, when the lanterns glow and children laugh, we are also remembering the ancestors who lit fires in the dark, the spirits who crossed the veil, the stories whispered by the firelight. Halloween is a journey that never ends, a rhythm of history, alive in every flame and every shadow. Halloween is not only about costumes and candy. It is about facing the night together. The Celts faced the winter with fire. We face the unknown with stories and laughter. The tools have changed, but the meaning remains. It is about courage. It is about remembering. It is about honoring the mysteries we cannot explain. This is why Halloween feels so powerful. It is not only play, it is a reminder that darkness can be met with light, that fear can be softened with joy, and that the past still walks with us, quietly, every autumn night. And so, Halloween is also about you. Every lantern you light, every costume you wear, every story you tell keeps this tradition alive. The fire of Samhain still burns, because people like you carry it into the night. If you enjoyed this journey, I invite you to like, subscribe, and share. Together, we can keep exploring the hidden roots of history and keep these stories alive. For the more we share them, the brighter the fire burns. And now, as the story fades, imagine the lanterns slowly going out, one by one. The night grows quiet. The mist thickens. The world rests again in mystery. But remember, the fire of Samhain is not gone. It is waiting. It will return next year, and every year, as long as people gather in the dark with light in their hands. So we leave this story here, with the echoes of fire, laughter, and shadow, drifting into the night. Until we meet again, may your nights be gentle, your fears soft, and your dreams filled with light.